Hi everyone. Our topic for this week is bathroom planning. We're going to start with some of the basic concepts that you studied in the intro class and then take it a little bit further. Let's get started. We're going to use the center concept as a framework for our discussion about bathroom planning. So in this video, first I'm going to briefly talk about what the center concept is, in case you've forgotten. And then we're going to get into depth into the grooming center. In the next videos, I'll talk about the bathing and showering center and the toileting center. So in brief, a center is basically an area where a particular task or function occurs. And in the bathroom, your NKBA curriculum has identified three basic tasks and centers for the bathroom. They are grooming, bathing and showering, and toileting. So as we look at each of these bath centers, the first thing we want to take a look at is defining which tasks and activities are in that center specifically, who are the users, which fixtures are in this center, the required floor space, and what kind of items need to be stored in that center. And while we talk about the grooming center in particular, here's a picture just to let you know this is what a grooming center might look like. Now that we're all on the same page, here are those design considerations. And those of you who took the intro class with me, this particular slide is a recap or a review of some information that we talked about last year. So the tasks and activities in the grooming center include washing your hands, face, and hair, brushing your teeth, taking care of your face and applying makeup, shaving, hair care, medicines, nail care. It's typically a single user per lavatory. Sometimes there are double lavs for 2 users if that's needed. And the fixtures in this grooming center are the lavatory, the faucet, the mirror, the towel bar. You want to make sure to include lighting and an electrical outlet, and you'll include countertop storage, enclosed storage, and possibly a medicine cabinet. The required floor space for a grooming center includes a 30-inch deep floor space in front of the lav, and also remember to pull your lav away from the wall at least 20 inches from the center line to the side wall. Okay, so remember your NKBA guidelines. And finally, there's a lot of stuff that gets used at the grooming center. So we need to store items for personal care, such as brushes, makeup, toothpaste, small appliances. And sometimes you also store kind of bulk items and cleaning supplies for the entire bathroom here at the grooming center. So it is the main storage center of the bathroom. Okay, so that was a recap of everything we learned about the grooming center in your intro class. And now I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into some specialty items or some specific areas about the grooming center. And the first one of those is a seated vanity. A seated vanity is a comfortable area for applying makeup, and your textbook says finishing, accessorizing an outlet. No, sorry, outfit. All right. The seated vanity could be placed in the bedroom or the dressing room. But if you put it in the bathroom, you could get a nearby water source. I mean, you have the lavatory right there. And so that's part of the grooming center. And here on your screen, you see a very interesting and truly lovely example of a seated vanity near the lavatory. An important part of designing your seated vanity is creating the knee space. You want to have it a minimum of 30 inches wide by 27 inches high by at least 19 inches deep. to accommodate either your seated user or a person in a wheelchair. If you do have your user in a wheelchair, it's recommended that you actually go to 36 inches wide, so give it a little bit of extra width. Therefore, it could be part of a turning radius or a T-shaped turn. And one more thing, when you create this knee space, you need to plan for supporting the counter. Um, if you have, for example, in this picture here, that counter is supported on both sides, that's not an issue. But if you've got a side that does not have cabinets next to it, so it doesn't have that support, you're going to need to put some brackets in your wall. Next topic is counter edges. And your textbook recommends that they should be rounded or clipped if the counter projects into the room. This is a universal design recommendation in order to prevent injury. So let's keep our users safe and round those edges. All right, this next one is a little more tricky. Last one was very easy, round the edges. This one requires a lot more thought and design, and that is the faucet. When you are choosing your faucet, you want to take a look at the type and the placement of the faucet in conjunction with or together with a particular lavatory. So they go together, the faucet and the lav. All right. And so here is on your screen an example of some poor choices of faucet and lav together. All right. So here's this one here as the faucet sprays out at a slight angle. Combined with the angle of the bowl will get you some splash or spray. Here is another pour design. This particular faucet combined with this lav, I think they're just too close together. All right, so you can't even get your hands in there really to get a good hand wash. And finally, they call this one out as an example of good design. All right, so in this case, this faucet is chosen, it sprays at this particular angle that will splash the water back into the bowl while still allowing reach into this water spray. So your faucet design should have a spray that stays in the lav, funny thing about that, and doesn't spray on the user, the counter, or the floor. You might want to choose a larger bowl. It's less likely that water will splash out. And be sure that you get that faucet high enough and far away enough from the back of the lav so that your hands can get under the spray. And finally, the recommendation is the length of the faucet spout needs to be proportional to the size of the lavatory in order to avoid overspray, which is when it just it doesn't even bounce out, it just sprays out of the bowl in the first place. There's a lot of different faucet types, and here's a quick overview of a couple of them. Here is an undermounted lav with the faucet mounted in the counter. In this picture here, we have a self-rimming lav. And the faucet is mounted on the rim of the lav itself. In this next picture, we have an integrated lav. The lav is integrated into the counter, and the faucet is mounted on that counter. And in this one here, we've got a vessel lav, and the faucet is mounted on the wall behind it. There's a lot of different choices here. The next topic I want to cover is storage at the grooming center. There's a lot of items that need to be stored at the grooming center. Some of them are used daily, and some are only occasional use. So do you want open or closed storage? That really depends on your user and the specific items. Closed storage hides clutter, provides privacy, and protects from dust, but open storage is easier to see, it's easier to reach, and it's easier to remember what's in there. Your storage design should be flexible. Adjustable shelves are a good idea. And it also needs to be efficient. You need to maximize your storage space. And remember, don't get your storage too deep. If it's too deep, items just get lost in the back. So here's a couple of examples of some bathroom storage at the grooming center. Let's start over here with example A. We've got some tall cabinets and drawers. These make the storage convenient to reach because they've got the drawers to pull out. The next one has a linen cabinet with a pull-out hamper. It's right next to the grooming area. And your third example here has some open shelving, and that makes it easier to see what is in there and where things are. Might be important for a guest bathroom or a powder room. In this next example, we've got letter D here. A cabinet drawer with a jewelry tray can organize a vanity area. That sounds nice. I'd like one of those. And this next one, I thought this was a kitchen until I realized that we're still in the bathroom section. But they've got a turntable. So they've got a Lazy Susan type turntable with a deep cabinet in the corner to make some items in the back more accessible. You can use these in the bathroom also. So speaking of cabinets, let's talk about bathroom cabinets in general. Most cabinet companies will carry cabinets specific for a bathroom. The stock sizes are available in 3-inch increments in width. And cabinet depths for a bathroom typically vary between 16 and 24 inches deep, with 21 being the most common. Cabinet heights are going to vary from 28.5 to 34.5 typically. And remember, you add 1.5 inches on top of there for the countertop to get a finished height of 30 to 36 inches. So remember your bathroom planning guideline number 7, the top of the lav, so the height of the lav should be somewhere between 32 and 43 inches. Another item commonly found in the grooming center is a medicine cabinet. This is an old standby for storage. I know I grew up with them and you probably did too. The shallow depth, they're shallow, they're only about this inch, 2.5 inches deep, makes it suitable for many of the small grooming items. Medicine cabinets can be recessed into the wall. They can be partially recessed or they can be surface mounted. And I want to mention, take a look at this picture here. This is from the Kitchen and Bath Systems book. If you have a recessed medicine cabinet, it's going to go back into the wall, and you're going to have to plan for that. So one way to do that, this is a picture of the framing in the wall. And you can see that you need to block around that medicine cabinet. The studs aren't going to go right through it. You have to go around. And you need to be real careful of electrical or plumbing lines because they can't run through that area. You need all of the depth of your framing for your medicine cabinet. So medicine cabinets can be placed right over the lav, just as your main mirror, for example. They could be to the side or on some other wall. And anything that works for you and makes those contents easy to reach. So there are some fancy medicine cabinets out there now. They have features. There's medicine cabinets with integrated televisions. There's ones with electrical outlets. And there's a bunch of other entertainment features. So there's some fancy cabinets out there. Take a look. The last grooming center topic I want to talk about is the mirror. So several of our grooming center activities require a mirror. The makeup, hair care, shaving, it's a big piece of the grooming center. The placement of the mirror is typically directly above the lavatory, or it could be somewhere adjacent in a vanity space if you've got that seated vanity. The height of the mirror should be placed with consideration for the user's eye heights and their line of sight. A couple years ago, I moved into my new house, and the owners before us had been fairly short people, and my husband and myself are fairly tall. We had to go through the house and rehang all the mirrors so that we could see each other. Whoops, not see each other, see ourselves. And I just want to note that a full length mirror is a common universal design solution. So it can serve people of all heights and abilities. And so you would not obviously place that above a lav, you'd place that on an adjacent wall. Lighting at the mirror is super important. You want to minimize glare and place the lighting on either side of the mirror for even distribution. But be careful, because by placing it in those locations, sometimes you can get a sight line into the direct glare and right into the naked bulb of the lamp. All right, so be sure to shield the light source from the naked eye. All right, choose your luminaire carefully. So we've got an example here from your textbook, and the concept is that the mirror should be placed at the user's eye level, and we have an example of a tall and a short user in this particular bathroom. And here's one way that you could organize that. They've got a higher counter height, a lower counter height. And if you can see, the lights and the tops of the mirrors are aligned, but the mirror over the shorter countertop is actually lower. And in between the two, there's a storage or an appliance garage area. All right, everybody, that was kind of a deeper dive into some of the topics that we didn't cover in the intro class, specific to the Grooming Center. In the next videos, I'll be talking about the other two centers, bathing, showering, and toileting.